Hi, I'm Justin, and this is Smokey the Van, my 2004 Ford E250. Come on in. Of course, we have the sign because he is a very dangerous attack cat. This is a sink, pump action faucet. I've got fresh and gray water down there, and that side of the cabinet folds out into a little shelf I can use for cooking outside or my laptop or whatever. Got my swivel seat there. That is my recliner. I like sitting there to do work or, mess around on the computer or whatever. Refrigerator, freezer right here, because you gotta have the food and all that important stuff. Coming back here, Olympian Wave 3 heater, very important right about now. Even though I'm in Arizona, it's kind of cold right now. Food pantry here, which also doubles as another shelf, both for food prep. Can pull out the propane stove when I'm sitting on that side, make my food and all that. And I can also use my computer right here as well. Just set up the laptop, plug it in, and away we go. More storage down here, more storage in here as well. I got some extra lights for reading or whatever, as well as other lights. This is what I usually use at night. So this is obviously my bed. Got a lot of storage underneath, as well as my my batteries and charge controller and all that fun stuff. I have two 200 amp hour SOK lithium batteries, as well as 350 watts of solar on the roof, plus an additional 200 watt panel just sitting outside, catching the rays in an angle and giving me a lot more charging when the days are so short and the sun is so low. Back here, this shelf is my dresser. This is where I keep all my clothes. And it's also my entertainment center. My entertainment is my iPad, which normally hangs right here, with a Bluetooth speaker I can use for movie theater sound when I'm in the mood. And just charging that off of here, so that all works. Back here I have a really small power inverter, as well as my Jackery 240. I use that exclusively to run my Starlink internet. I work online full-time, so that's how I stay connected. And I have all my hotspots and everything over there that I still use sometimes, but Starlink has been a serious game changer because I'm no longer tied down to where I have cell signal. I can go out in the middle of a national park or a national forest as long as I have a view of the sky, and I'm online from anywhere. Yeah, it really works well for me. You do need a clear view of the North Sky. When I was staying up in the Grand Canyon in Kaibab National Forest, I couldn't use Starlink at all because I was in the forest. Got to have a clear view of the sky. But I was able to use my hotspots. Their limited data was not a problem because any other time I use Starlink, which is unlimited data and faster. Well, I live in a van because, it goes back to an unhappy marriage I was in. I was watching internet videos, trying to escape in my head, and that's when YouTube threw some Bob Wells videos at me. And I got interested in van life as a way I could live affordably, because I was living the American dream at that point. I had the house, the wife, the sports car, the 2.5 stepkids. I was making more money than I ever did in my life, and I was miserable, in part because I didn't have a cent to keep to myself. So moving into a van was a way that I could not pay rent anymore, save a lot of money, and also travel, because I've always had the urge to travel. One reason I got into motorcycling is because it was an inexpensive way to finally do some traveling. So doing it this way, I decided to give it a go. I bought a starter van, just a no-build build, very, very simple in the conversion van, and I loved it. A girlfriend I had at the time and I decided we were going to go full-time together, so we bought this van 2 years ago, built it out, And well, we hit the road earlier than we expected because of an apartment fire halfway through the build, which kind of forced us to hurry up a bit. But the fastest way to get a roof over our heads was finish it. So we finished it, we hit the road. 2 months later we broke up, but I've been on the road for a year and a half without her and counting ever since. And I'm loving it. Opening that, nice little shelf. Water and gray water in there, not too exciting, but it works. So that's my home on wheels. This is my garage on wheels because I ride motorcycles. I love motorcycles, and I'm even a motorcycle journalist. So motorcycles are a very important part of my life, and I picked this up so I can bring a bike and all the usual garage stuff with me. This has its very own electrical system. So here I have a rack dedicated for my motorcycle helmet, riding gear, all that good stuff. Floor jack, because it's my garage. I keep tools in here too, along with a little emergency bedding, spare parts, tools, bits and pieces, both for the van as well as the motorcycle. This down here is the wheel chock. The front wheel just goes in here, and I tie it down with ratchet straps to this E-track right here. Get it tied down, it's not going anywhere. And then more storage here. I've got a propane stove I use when it's nice out, which it isn't right now. Bits and pieces, geyser showers, so when it's warm I just bathe myself with it. Shade cloth, when it is warm, I can park the van and the trailer kind of side by side and stretch the shade cloth between them, so I've got shade overhead on a hot day. Got a generator if I need it, 2,000 watts. It works quite well, but I have enough solar now that I don't really need to use the generator, which is great. This is a Reolink camera. It just uses Wi-Fi, and I originally put it in here when I first got the trailer so that while I'm driving I could keep an eye on whether the motorcycle is tipping over inside, because I was really paranoid about that. Now I can turn it on if I just want to keep an eye on things in here, so it's kind of handy. Some of the benefits are obviously the travel. I never got to do much traveling before, and now travel is my life. I'm getting to see parts of the country that I've never seen before, which is actually most of it. I'd only ever been up and down the East Coast. But now I've come out west, I've hit all 4 corners of the country even, which is great. Next year I'm hoping to hit Canada as well. So there's that. Of course, there's the affordability of this way of life. Gas prices notwithstanding, although you can also choose how much or how little you travel to kind of mitigate that expense too. And then also just being able to visit friends and family that I haven't seen in many years, or in some cases ever. People I've met online that I've been talking with for 5, 10, even 20 years. I've been able to finally meet up with them in the real world because I'm traveling and loving it. So this back door is a ramp so I can load and unload the motorcycle. And it's good for that. But when I put my jack stands down in just the right place, it's a nice little deck. I can set up a chair on here, sit down, have a beer, watch the sunset. Really comfy. I really enjoy this part. So this is my 2011 Suzuki V-Strom 650. Like I say, I'm in motorcycling. I could go camping on it, but why go camping when I can go glamping in this setup? So what I do is I often will drive to some place, a general area where I want to ride. I'll find a place to spend a week or two, unload the bike, and then I'll go exploring the area on the bike. I need to put some additional luggage on here because I also like to run errands on this. So right here, I'll take the bike into town and go buy my groceries, and come back. That way I don't have to move the van from where I parked it. I'm spending the winter in Quartzsite, Arizona, as many vehicle dwellers do. And where I'm camped right now is with a group that were mostly strangers when I got here last year. We just happened to all be camped in the same area. But over the winter, we became friends. We formed a nice little community. We kept in touch when we left for the summer, and now we've intentionally come back together to camp again this winter. Bigger and better than before. We have a community tent over there that we're all welcome to use and hang out in, which is particularly handy on cold nights because there's a wood stove in there. And yeah, and that's just my community here in Quartzsite. I've made friends that I keep in touch with, and we'll go visit again in my travels in the future as well. Some of the challenges I've experienced, well, there's always figuring out where to park, which is even more tricky when I have a 6x10 trailer behind me. So there is no stealth. A wheelchair van towing a cargo trailer is not something you see every day. So, and plus, fitting into parking lots and such. Obviously, the breakup I went through was a challenge because we built this van together. We lived in here together. And when we were in the middle of breaking up, there was no room for us to get away from each other, which I'm sure was a contributing factor toward how bad it got. So that was a challenge. Another challenge is this guy, my cat, Lister. He doesn't really like traveling for more than a couple of hours at a time. So I love having him around. It would be a lot easier to put down miles if I didn't have to worry about, letting him out to explore, which is something he loves to do. But at the same time, he also reminds me that, I shouldn't be out here to put down miles. I should be out here to explore and see the world and everything. So if I have to pull into like a town park or something like that and let him go roam for an hour, that's not a bad thing. It's a reminder to just sort of, sit down, relax, and, take in the local atmosphere. How much did it cost me to get into this? I have not kept track of numbers. I know the van cost me just under $2,000, which seems ridiculous with post-pandemic prices of vehicles and everything. I bought this directly from a wheelchair van company, the original owner out of Rhode Island. Rhode Island means rust. Everywhere in New England, all the roads get salted in the winter, and rust is a way of life. But I had to get a rusty vehicle to get out of there. Whatever my next rig is, I'm getting it here in Arizona because it avoids that problem. Especially once the apartment fire happened, I was pretty much just throwing money at the problem and not keeping very close track of how much I spent. The batteries, the electrical system, that's definitely a few $1,000s because since I work online, I absolutely require a good electrical system and a solid internet connection because without those, I can't make money and I can't keep living. I'd say I have roughly, maybe 7,000 to 8,000 in the van at this point, and about that much in the trailer. I bought that new this past spring, and then the motorcycle was about 5,500. That's obviously optional, but yeah, it's not an option for me. I gotta have a motorcycle. I've definitely been interested in living more simply. Not necessarily roughing it to the extent of not having comfort, but I have lived in a couple of intentional communities and a co-housing community, so I definitely have had an interest in that. This is definitely a bit more minimalist than that. I wouldn't say I'm doing this to be a minimalist, although there are certainly minimalist aspects to this. I have, this is my living space. Well, this and the trailer, if I decide to set that up as an office or something, I can do that. But, if I was a true minimalist, I probably wouldn't have gotten a freezer so I could have ice cream. I wouldn't have a motorcycle or even the trailer if I was trying to be as minimalist as possible. So not much of a thing, but it's on the list, maybe a little farther down, but yeah, it's there. Have I enjoyed the downsizing? Well, a lot of the downsizing was done for me because of an apartment fire. So I didn't get a lot of choice in that. However, compared to my previous life, the American dream, where I just had so much stuff, I do find it liberating. Aside from a storage unit back in New Hampshire where I used to live that I'm going to clear out this summer, my entire life is right here. Certainly my entire life that matters right now is right here, because I've done without that stuff for a year and a half, so clearly I don't need it very badly. Yeah, it's very liberating to have cut down on how much stuff I have, and I've expanded a little bit with the trailer and everything. I used to carry the motorcycle on a trailer hitch carrier, and I was always scared of looking in my mirror and seeing what's left of my motorcycle tumbling down the road behind me in pieces. So the trailer's given me some peace of mind, and it has allowed me to expand a bit of, you know, just what I carry. But yeah, it's great just having everything I need with me in this small space. It looked like I had everything, but I wasn't happy. It was the life that society told me I should want and should have, and I achieved it, and I just wasn't happy with it. I was stuck, I was broke, I didn't have the time or the money to do anything, let alone travel. So the appeal of this life is living more affordably, being able to afford to travel, being able to afford to splurge on nice things on occasion, like, you know, an upgraded motorcycle, or when I visited the Grand Canyon, it wasn't a major ordeal to decide to drop a few $100 on a helicopter ride. You know, once in a lifetime experience. I can actually afford to do that. Not all the time, but once in a while when it's worth it, because the Grand Canyon and riding in a helicopter were both bucket list items for me, so I got both of them at the same time. And it was great to know that I could afford to do that. My personal philosophy on life is that of Bill S. Preston Esquire and Ted Theodore Logan. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. It's pretty much what it comes down to. You can follow my journey at SmokeyTheVan.com. That is my travel blog, kind of the center of the Smokeyverse. I am also on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the things as Smokey Da Van, Smokey D-A-V-A-N. And I don't have an online business yet, although I do freelance writing, specifically about cars and motorcycles. So if you're looking for someone who can write about that stuff and has a clue about van life, look me up.
Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please share it with a friend. Also, if you want to watch more alternative dwellings, we got a playlist popping up right here, and we release new episodes every single Sunday, so consider subscribing.